Austrade would like to introduce you to a new website to make getting into export or expanding to new markets easier. You can find the site by going to export.business.gov.au/market-profiles. The site's been designed to save you time and effort when searching for the regulations affecting exports of mangoes. You can quickly access tariff rates, import country requirements and commercial insights for mangoes into 51 markets. The site's been built by Austrade in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade and the Australian Mango Industry Association, so you can have confidence that the information you find on the site is reliable. Let me show you how it works. You start by clicking on the Get Started button in the bottom right hand side of the page, and then you enter the product that you're seeking to export, in this case mangoes, and click Next. Then you can use the drop down menu on the following page to see all of the markets that are included in the site, the 51 markets I mentioned earlier. You can see that some of them have the word prohibited in red lettering after their name. That means that unfortunately we don't have market access for mangoes into those markets, and so you can immediately exclude them from your export plans. But there are many that we do have access to, and I'm going to choose one of them on this occasion. Let's try Singapore. So then we come through to the market profile page for mangoes to Singapore, and it starts with the fast facts, or a little summary of the kind of information you can see in this section of the site. As I scroll down, you can see that there are 6 categories of information in the profile, from information about demand trends, like the kinds of varieties that are popular with consumers in the market, to the competitive environment and the way the supply chain works, tips for doing business in Singapore, resources and incentives to support you to do so, and also who you can talk to find out more. We're searching for regulations and tariffs, so let's click on the laws and regulations category. So we come through to the laws and regulations section, and you can see that we've got the scientific name for mangoes and the harmonised system code. That's really useful for looking up tariffs in the future. Then we provide you with a kind of overview or list of steps that quickly tell you how easy or complex it is to meet the regulations that apply in the Singapore markets for mangoes. So you can see that it's not a protocol market. You don't need an import permit, nor do you need a phytosanitary certificate or additional declaration, but there is a free trade agreement with Singapore. And if you're not sure what any of these mean, you can use the yellow drop down arrows to see a definition of each of these. As we scroll down, there's a link to the Mango Industry Association, and then you're pointed to the details of the import country requirements under Read Next. You can also find the importing country requirement in detail by using the tab at the top of the page. So here's the full details, and they're coming from the Department of Agriculture's Manual of Importing Country Requirements, or MyCore, and you can see that they were last updated just last month, so they're current. You can also see that we're showing the import country requirements for fruit into Singapore. That's because there are no specific requirements for mangoes, so those for fruit are those that apply. Here's the list again, confirming that there are very few regulations. In fact, the only thing is the general requirement, and that requires that your shipment should be free from extraneous material like soils, weeds, etc. There's no treatment requirements and there's no additional declaration. Then there's a link to the export documents and some further information from the MyCore website, and the next section encourages you to read next about tariffs. Now, it might be in your case that your customer is responsible for meeting the cost of any tariff, but it's useful to know the kinds of cost constraint that your overseas customer faces, and it might be something to be mindful of depending on how you express your prices. Sometimes it's X your premises in Australia or X the nearest port, or it might be expressed to a port or to a destination in a foreign market, which will dictate whether the buyer or the seller is responsible for the tariff. So something to keep in mind, and also important when comparing your competitiveness against an exporter from another country. It's important to understand the tariff that applies to competitors relative to your own. So in the case of Singapore, there are actually 3 free trade agreements between Australia and Singapore, and under all 3 you can see here that the tariff that applies to mangoes is 0. So now, having found that the market is relatively lightly regulated and it's moderately easy to comply with the regulations, and that the tariff rate for mangoes is zero, you might want to go back to the demand trends or competitive environment sections of the market profile to confirm that it's commercially attractive to export mangoes to Singapore. But I won't go there for the time being. I'm going to show you another market just to help you further navigate through the site. So we'll go back to the product search and type in mangoes again, click next, and this time we'll choose another market, let's say Japan, and click through to next. Now in the case of Japan, the site's only showing one category of information, laws and regulations. That's because the site is in what we call beta. You can see beta here in the top right hand corner. It's actually a test site. The information is all accurate. It's just that we're still building the site. It's a work in progress. So if you want to give us feedback about how it can be improved, any information you think should be there but isn't, we'd be glad to receive your feedback, and that's the basis on which we'll be improving the site over time. So let's click through to the laws and regulations part of the Japan market profile, and again it has the same format as you saw in respect of Singapore, with the scientific name and the harmonized system code at the top. We show you an overview about how easy or difficult it is to access the market in terms of the regulations that you need to comply with, and you can see this is presented as a kind of checklist. So you can see that it is a protocol market. You don't need an import permit, but you do need a phytosanitary certificate, etc., etc. And just as per the Singapore profile, you click on the yellow down arrows to see the definitions of each of these steps. Now, in the case of Singapore, you need to register. Japan, you need to register your premises for export. That's true of Japan, China, and Hong Kong. So the Australian Mango Industry Association can help you to register your premises for the purpose of export to those markets, and it's important to contact them if you wish to do so. So let's click through, having seen the overview, let's click through to the full details of the import country requirements for Japan. You can see again that these are coming from the Manual of Importing Country Requirements maintained by the Department of Agriculture, and there's quite a bit more detail here than there was for the profile for Singapore. In fact, you can only export certain varieties of mango to Japan. You must use vapor heat treatment on them, and there are specifications about endorsements, etc. there. There are the same links to the export documentation and the other useful information, and then you can click through to the tariff information. In the case of Japan, there are two free trade agreements between Australia and Japan, and once again the tariff rate that applies for mangoes under both of those agreements is zero. So I hope you found that quick insight into how to navigate this tool useful. If you have any questions, if you have feedback, if you have a desire to find out more, please call us on 132878. We have the Austrade Contact Centre available, open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, Eastern Standard Time. It's staffed by a team with at least 10 years experience in business, every person in the team, and they're backed by the Austrade network with all of the information about export that we hold. So I encourage you to use the tool to investigate other markets. There's 49 other markets included in the tool. I hope you find it easy to use, and we're really grateful to the Australian Mango Industry Association for having helped us develop this tool for you.